Welcome, everybody, to episode 11 of Downloadable Brain. I'm your host, Brain44, and today I'm going to discuss the psychology of give and take relationships, which basically means when you encounter certain people on your journey in life who will be revealed to be takers. You have to establish boundaries and show self-respect. So how do we know we're stepping into a give and take relationship? It's pretty simple to tell right away from the start, actually. If you're doing a lot of good things for others, you're going out of your way to help them out, you're putting them first and holding them in a high regard, you don't necessarily need to feel entitled to anything. But if you really go out of your way to help somebody and they simply say thank you, it teaches you that this person in your life appreciates and values the things you have done for them. We don't always give to people or go out of our way to help them out just because we feel the need for them to repay us. But we do it because it just feels like it's the right thing to do, to really help somebody out when they are in need. But you also need to be very mindful of takers who you may encounter throughout your life, where you're always the one who's giving, they are always taking, and you give more to them than they could ever really take. That could be just in terms of paying them a kind gesture, helping them move into a new house, being there for them when they're going through difficult times. It's not really limited to giving money or material possessions. It's just more what you're offering to the person in terms of your time, energy, and love. But hey, if you guys want to buy me a new car, I'm not going to throw rocks at you for it. Let's continue. So I came up with this brilliant idea of meeting people over the internet. It's a good way to find potential love interest, but it's not only limited to love, it could be other things. For example, I'm a musician and I have assembled bands in my past, as well as joined certain bands. All these relationships had one thing in common. They are people who I have met over the internet. And when we do these things, and we decide to meet people over the internet, we establish a certain level of trust in the individual, just naturally assuming that they either want something similar to what you want, or you may have differences, and if you don't have a mutual agreement, you respectfully part ways. The give-take relationship is never quite that simple. Sometimes a narcissist sits back and plots. So when they see you're a creative and talented person, they might say to themselves, I cannot do what he does, but I'm going to smile in his face and talk crap about him behind his back, because his potential reminds me of everything I am not, and I'm very bitter for not being him. But at the same time, I'm also jealous, emotional, and cunning, so I'm going to make it my mission to intentionally sabotage him however I can. What if we start saying, okay, now we understand the dynamic of the give and take relationship. So I played in a band with some folks, and I gave it my all in terms of time, energy, and talent, but they took it in the present moment, rolled with it while it lasted, then decided that they could gain more from piggybacking on the coattails of my potential and success. I call that being done dirty. But something I strongly believe in is that the trash always sees itself out. So those same people who were smiling in your face and talking crap behind your back, they no longer have anything for you. So now they might ghost you after taking everything they could during that time in their lives. It works for me. I am far better off as a musician who works independently and doing the whole one-man band thing, as opposed to getting involved with the wrong kind of people who would rather get matching tattoos than build an empire with me. Lesson learned. Let's move on. So there's the give-take relationship in terms of friendships where you give everything, they take it all, and you get thrown under the bus. But then there's legitimate dating and trying to potentially meet women online. So what is that like? Well, depending on who you are and what you have to offer, it could potentially be something good. It never was for me, though. I'll tell you why. The girls I did meet online were not people who wanted the best for me. They wanted what they could take from me in that time. When they discovered I did not have much to give at that specific time in my life, I would go to work while they went to school and we got a place together. It didn't last long, but the one thing I noticed about it was that when I was busy working, they were living the party life. Back then, I indulged in my share of alcohol consumption, but I noticed very little things about this girl. She would mess around behind my back, cheat on me with other guys while I was trying to take her seriously. And then she'd bring me around her friends and expect me to become this ideal representation of what her friends expect a guy like me to be who she would date. So when she cheated, she flirted with other dudes in front of my face, she humiliated me in public, she became an aggressor, an abuser, and a manipulator. I said, at this point, I feel like I'm trapped and it's time for me to go. So I left, but it wasn't as simple as just leaving. This person was so cunning that they demanded I pay them rent money for the remainder of that month. Otherwise, they would threaten to take me to court. So I remember exactly what I did in that moment. I threw the rent money on the table, and I felt like I was paying for a hooker without the service. It was the dirtiest I've ever felt, and I've never felt so used and abused. But then there's a great reward in coming to understand the true nature of the femme fatale. Now I know the potential of how rotten a woman like that can be. But just because she was rotten doesn't make all of them the same way. Or maybe people just kind of look at me and feel like they're able to abuse and misuse me and put me into that give-take relationship where I'm always giving and they are always taking. Not anymore, because whether it applies to dating, just making friends, or working with fellow musicians, now I understand what it means to be the one who is the giver, and I observe the other ones who are the takers. And I know when to stop associating with the takers. So here I am now, rocking you like a hurricane, perfectly content all by myself, just doing my own thing. I've got the Downloadable Brain podcast going for myself now. I just dropped my debut album under the official artist name Spiritual Advisor, and I feel good for getting to this point in my life. I worked for it, and nobody handed it to me. I earned it, because I never took anything from people who constantly took from me, but I learned how to stop associating with takers. So here I am now, rocking you like a hurricane. You have the potential to manifest your own success, and no dirty offer or take-take relationship is going to reward you, where you're just the one taking from people and refusing to do the work. That's what I call a spiritual rodent. Trust me, I'm an expert at being used. However, when we step into our potential and we maintain our power, we leave the taker often feeling depleted, defeated, and confused. Why is that? Because our success is like a reminder to the taker of what they could never become. So when they come up short, they decide to quit on playing a musical instrument and they didn't see it through. Where they gave up on their dreams, they watched you step into yours, and that feels like betrayal to them. Where you came into something far greater than the vision they had of you becoming their victim, it feels like you betrayed them. And when you do this, it's going to drive the taker absolutely insane, because now they understand the true relationship and they know the power dynamic for what it is. You straight up ghost their asses, because now they're going to want to come back because they see the potential inside of you. But it's not because they like you. It's because they want to reuse what they did in the past. But it's not going to work. You don't associate with them. You don't converse with them. You don't respond to their texts. You just leave their asses in the dark where it belongs, because that is exactly where they left you, but it no longer matters. The past is in the past, so certain people come into our lives and certain people leave our lives, often to teach us a lesson about what to do and what to avoid. So if I ever came into a new love interest again, or a potential partnership with a fellow musician, or maybe just somebody like a talent agent or a company who wants to work with me, it could never be a repetition of the past mistakes that I've already made. If those people from the past are still watching or listening right now, it's kind of their problem, and the best piece of advice I could ever give to them is to simply get over it and move on to new potential relationships. So if anybody out there is a potential business partner, now you'll understand what I'm all about, what I'm not all about, and that I don't believe in taking any dirty offers from potential interests, just as long as we've established that. Now we know more about what it means to be in a give and take relationship, because not everybody's going to like you. There's a lot of people I don't like, but if I became so resentful of that person that I dislike, and I just needed to sit there and study them, that would be the true definition of insanity, where it's not even a competition. It's just straight up mental illness. And I do wish everybody well who suffers from mental health issues. I truly mean that. There's certainly been times where my faith and patience has been tested, but that's not enough to ever take my ass to the loony bin. My haters, on the other hand, I can't speak on their behalf. I can only offer constructive criticism and useful guidance to them, but even doing that is giving them way too much. We leave those takers in the past for a reason, because once you take out the garbage, you don't go back later looking for scraps. The garbage is just there where it belongs, and it stays there, out of sight and out of mind. I hope today's episode provides some useful insight on what a give and take relationship means, and if it can teach the listener to develop strategies to practice distance, self-respect, and courage in order to break out of abusive give and take relationships, then I've certainly done something productive here today. Thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to end it there on this 11th episode of Downloadable Brain, where I love the sound of my own voice just a little bit less each day, but at the same time, I feel like I have a lot to say and a lot to offer. Have a good afternoon, everybody. Until next time, stay intelligent. Peace.